ladies, gentlemen, and the often forgotten, but not by me, Saab 900 Turbos. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to episode 4 of our series where we try to help you become a better driver. A few episodes ago, I talked about the importance of practice. I think it's time to go into more details about how exactly one should be practicing. As I've been driving the Huracan this season, I've been learning a lot about how I do it and how sometimes I was actually being counterproductive. So, hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be able to avoid making some of the mistakes I did, and ideally you'll be adding some new tools to your training plan. Learning how to learn is its own skill, and it's a crucially important one. Step 1 is going to be practicing more often, but for shorter periods of time. Your brain gets burned out pretty quickly learning a track, and anything over an hour, you're really just going to exhaust yourself mentally and probably start making dumb mistakes. That leads to getting upset with your lack of progress, and as anyone can tell you, angry practice is counterproductive practice. A good target is maybe 45 minutes or so of lapping, and you want to step away for about an hour, maybe more. Save those longer training sessions for endurance race training. But, at the same time, don't let this turn into an excuse to not practice. Even if you're not in the mood, try to get in at least 20 minutes a day. Also, don't discount the importance of good sleep in improving your practice results. Your brain uses sleep to reorganize and restructure all the things that it was exposed to during the day. So if you're not getting good sleep, you're definitely going to retain a lot less. When you're starting out learning a new track, don't try to learn optimal braking points right away. Drive a slow lap, just get an idea for where the line might be. Then start carrying more speed into the corners, get a feel for grip limits, especially mid-corner and turn exit. When you know what the right line and speed mostly looks like, that's when you can start pushing back your braking points to see how much you can get away with. And don't just stop at braking points. Give yourself mental marks where you can start turning in, when you can start bleeding off trail braking, where you can start building up throttle. Eventually you're going to want multiple marks to work with, as you're not going to have the same reference points all the time. So if you use the 100 meter board for braking every lap, the lap that it gets taken out by a car that spins, you need another reference point. This is extra important in endurance racing when you're struggling to find marks like in the middle of the night, more so on tracks with poor lighting like at the Nordschleife. Do not use the in-game racing line. It exists in a vacuum in relation to your skill level. Don't look at the lap times of your favorite setup shop, and don't turn on the lap time delta until you are turning consistent laps. And when I say consistent, I mean within a few tenths every single time. Do a 10-lap session, check your times at the end of it, and if you're really consistent, then you can start hunting for those last little chunks of speed here and there. The drivers in the fastest lap tutorials are better than you, period. If you try to drive like them from the very beginning, you will spend a lot of time off track getting really frustrated. They have very aggressive styles. Their setups are often tuned for high-level drivers to find that perfect slip angle and to find it as fast as possible. And that ain't you. Learn to work with the talent you have, not the talent you want.
If we try to play like the Yankees in here, we will lose to the Yankees out there.
Also, the delta bar, while very useful at times, should be used sparingly. When that number stays in the red lap after lap, it gets in your head. I'll keep preaching this until I'm dead. Racing is 90% mental. You just need confidence. You have to protect your headspace, though, if you want to be quick. That means not letting yourself get tilted because you're not as fast as the alien drivers out there. There's a reason you're not as fast as them, and it's not innate talent, but we'll get into that in just a bit. To echo a phrase I got really sick of hearing in the military, you gotta train how you fight. If you only practice with a nearly empty tank on a super aggressive setup and you only take the perfect line, you're gonna be absolute garbage in a race. When you do that, you're practicing for qualifying. Having a good quality time won't win you a race. If your races are 20 minutes, you need to practice a 20-minute stint with the appropriate fuel levels and a safe-ish setup. You need to know how the car drives with cold tires, worn tires, full tank, empty tank, how it feels if you have to go offline, all that. Go into practice sessions with lots of other drivers so you can get used to being around traffic and how you have to adjust. If you're primarily in a series with multi-class racing, you owe it to yourself and the other people to do that. Your race times are rarely going to be the blisteringly quick ones, but if you're consistent and adaptable, you'll find way more success than a guy who, hot lapped for 2 hours and matched the DRS times, but he spins in T1 because he only knows that one line. Putting down one hot lap on pace with the best drivers means nothing. When it is time to hot lap and see just how much performance you can get out of the car, it's not time to hold back. You have to take risks with your braking points, take risks with cutting curbs. The great thing about sims, though, is that you don't have to pay for a damaged car and you don't have to go to the hospital if you end up upside down at the top of Mount Panorama. You can turn off damage in practice to save yourself time on outlaps too if you're a little impatient. Just be aware it's very easy for you to find a good enough rhythm and train yourself to drive that way all the time when in reality you're not pushing the car to its limit. Now, this is when the setup shops and top level drivers can be really helpful. You can watch their lines and watch their inputs, but you can't copy them exactly. They drive differently than you do. You have to never forget that. What you can do is find ways to iterate off their line in a way that feels comfortable, but also helps you find more time. Look at telemetry, especially look at speed on turn entry. That's frequently where a lot of drivers sort of hit that wall with their lap times. If you have the data, look at your slip angle. Slip angle is going to get its own entire video, but for a lot of race grade tires, I want to say 6 to 8% means you're getting the car close to the edge. And definitely watch your chase cam. Cockpit view is great and really helpful, but chase cam will tell you a lot about how a car behaves and reacts to weight transfer, and it will also show you how much of the track you are using or in a lot of cases not using. So let's get down to the really important takeaway from this video. Innate talent is a myth. If you want to really get in the weeds for that hot take, I'd highly recommend a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I might do a deep dive video on that subject later on if people are interested enough. Let me know down in the comments, but the short version for now is this. World-class drivers, athletes, musicians, etc., they got there because they practiced more than anyone else. They worked harder than anyone else, 4 or 5 times more. As far as the sociologist and psychologist in the Outliers book can tell, innate talent might buy you a slight advantage, but it isn't even close to making up for training time. The amount of time, effort, and willpower that made drivers like Senna or Prost or Schumacher is orders of magnitude greater than you think it is. What separates you from the, quote, aliens that are 5/10ths faster than you? Probably 5 times the practice. Finding that speed comes down to your mentality and your work rate. If you want it, you can get there, but that's definitely not for everyone.
But only for those with true grit.
And that's the greatest lesson about practicing. You're just not doing it enough, and in some cases you're not practicing as efficiently as you could. So starting today, use this as a springboard to optimize how you train. Alright, that was one of the longer videos, but practice is really the foundation for all of your driving skills. So I hope I've given you some things to think about, and if you feel inclined, please post down in the comments what sort of methods or drills you have for practicing. You never know, it might help somebody out. On our next video, we'll be discussing where your eyes should be when you're racing, but until then, see you on the track.